Good morning. When we left off yesterday, Matilda was at the library visiting with Miss Phelps. She had just finished the great Dickens novel, Great Expectations, and Miss Phelps was ready to get her a new novel. Here's our picture here. Sitting in the large chair, reading her novel book in the back of the library. Over the next 6 months, under Miss Phelps' watchful and compassionate eye, Matilda read the following books: Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens, Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy, Gone to Earth by Mary Webb, Kim by Rudyard Kipling, The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells, The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, The Good Companions by J.B. Priestley, Brighton Rock by Graham Greene, and Animal Farm by George Orwell. It was a formidable list, and by now Miss Phelps was filled with wonder and excitement. But it was probably a good thing that she did not allow herself to be completely carried away by it all. Almost anyone else witnessing the achievements of this small child would have been tempted to make a great fuss and shout the news all over the village and beyond. But not so Miss Phelps. She was someone who minded her own business and had long since discovered it was seldom worth while to interfere with other people's children. Mr. Hemingway says a lot of things I don't understand, Matilda said to her, especially about men and women, but I loved it all the same. The way he tells it, I feel I'm right there on the spot watching it all happen. A fine writer will always make you feel that, Miss Phelps said. And don't worry about the bits you can't understand. Sit back and allow the words to wash around you like music. Oh, I will. I will. Did you know, Miss Phelps said, that public libraries like this allow you to borrow books and take them home? I didn't know that, Matilda said. Could I do that? Of course, Miss Phelps said. When you have chosen the book you want, bring it to me so I can make a note of it, and it's yours for 2 weeks. You can take more than one if you wish. From then on, Matilda would visit the library only once a week in order to take out new books and return the old ones. Her own small bedroom now became her reading room, and there she would sit and read most afternoons, often with a mug of hot chocolate beside her. She was not quite tall enough to reach things around the kitchen, but she kept a small box in the outhouse, which she brought in and stood on in order to get whatever she wanted. Mostly, it was hot chocolate. She made warming the milk in a saucepan on the stove before mixing it. Occasionally, she made Bovril or Ovaltine. It was pleasant to take a hot drink up to her room and have it beside her as she sat in her silent room reading in the empty house in the afternoons. The books transported her into new worlds and introduced her to amazing people who lived exciting lives. She went on olden day sailing ships with Joseph Conrad. She went to Africa with Ernest Hemingway and to India with Rudyard Kipling. She traveled all over the world while sitting in her little room in an English village. Mr. Wormwood, the great car dealer. Matilda's parents owned quite a nice house, with 3 bedrooms upstairs, while on the ground floor There was a dining room and a living room and a kitchen. Her father was a dealer in second-hand cars, and it seemed he did pretty well at it. Sawdust, he would say proudly, is one of the great secrets of my success, and it costs me nothing. I get it free from the sawmill. What do you use it for? Matilda asked him. Ah! The father said. Wouldn't you like to know? I don't see how sawdust can help you sell second-hand cars, Daddy. Psh, that's because you're an ignorant little twit, the father said. His speech was very delicate, but Matilda was used to it. She also knew that he liked to boast, and she would egg him on shamelessly. You must be very clever to find a use for something that costs nothing, she said. I wish I could do it. You couldn't, the father said. You're too stupid. But I don't mind telling young Mike here about it, seeing he'll be joining me in the family business one day. Ignoring Matilda, he turned to his son and said, I'm always glad to buy a car when some fool has been crashing the gears so badly. They're all worn out and rattle like mad. I get it cheap. Then all I do is mix a lot of sawdust with the oil in the gearbox, and it runs as sweet as a nut. How long will it run like that before it starts rattling again? Matilda asked him. Long enough for the buyer to get a good distance away, the father said, grinning. About 100 miles. But that's dishonest, Daddy, Matilda said. It's cheating. Nobody ever got rich being honest, the father said. Customers are there to be diddled. Mr. Wormwood was a small, ratty-looking man whose front teeth stuck out underneath a thin, ratty mustache. He liked to wear jackets with large, brightly colored checks, and he sported ties that were usually yellow or pale green. Now take mileage for an instance, he went on. Anyone who's buying a second-hand car, the first thing he wants to know is how many miles it's done, right? Right, the son said. So I buy an old dump. It's about 150,000 miles on the clock. I get it cheap. But no one's going to buy with a mileage like that, are they? In these days, you can't just take the speedometer out and fiddle the numbers back like you used to 10 years ago. They fixed it, so it's impossible to tamper with it unless you're a Rudy watchmaker or something. So what do? I use my brains, laddie. That's what I do. How? Young Michael asked, fascinated. He seemed to have inherited his father's love of cookery. I sit down and say to myself, how can I convert a mileage reading of 150,000 into only 10,000 without taking the speedometer to pieces? Well, if I were to run the car backwards for long enough, then obviously that would do it. The numbers would click backwards, wouldn't they? But who's going to drive a flaming car in reverse for thousands and thousands of miles? You couldn't do that. Of course you couldn't, young Michael said. So I scratched my head, the father said. I use my brains. When you've been given a fine brain like I have, you've got to use it. And all of a sudden, the answers hit me. I tell you. I felt exactly like that other brilliant fellow must have felt when he discovered penicillin. Eureka! I cried. I've got it! What did you do, Dad? The son asked him. The speedometer, Mr. Wormwood said. It's run off a cable that has coupled up to one of the front wheels. So first, I disconnect the cable where it joins the front wheel. Next, I get one of those high-speed electric drills, and I couple that up to the end of the cable in such a way that when the drill turns, it turns the cable backwards. You got me so far. You following me? Yes, Daddy, young Michael said. These drills run at a tremendous speed, the father said. So when I switch on the drill, the mileage numbers on the speedo spin backwards at a fantastic rate. I can knock 50,000 miles off the clock in a few minutes with my high-speed electric drill. By the time I finished, the car's only done 10,000 and it's ready for sale. She's almost new, I say to the customer. She's hardly done 10,000. Belonged to an old lady who only used it once a week for shopping. Can you really turn the mileage back with an electric drill? Young Michael asked. I'm telling you trade secrets, the father said. So don't you go talking about this to anyone else. You don't want me put in jug, do you? I don't want to tell a soul, the boy said. Do you do this to many cars, Dad? Every single car that comes through my hands gets the treatment, the father said. They all have their mileage cut to under 10,000 before they're offered for sale. And to think I invented that all by myself, he added proudly, it's made me a mint. Matilda, who had been listening closely, said, But, Daddy, that's even more dishonest than the sawdust. It's disgusting. You're cheating people who trust you. If you don't like it, then don't eat the food in this house, the father said. It's bought with the profits. It's dirty money, Matilda said. I hate it. 2 red spots appeared on the father's cheeks. Who the heck do you think you are? He shouted. The Archbishop of Canterbury or something, preaching to me about honesty. You're just an ignorant little squirt who hasn't the foggiest idea what you're talking about. Quite right, Harry, the mother said. And to Matilda she said, You've got a nerve talking to your father like that. Now keep your nasty mouth shut so we can all watch this program in peace. They were in the living room eating their suppers on 3 knees in front of the telly. The suppers were TV dinners in floppy aluminum containers with separate compartments for the stew meat, the boiled potatoes, and the peas. Miss Wormwood sat munching her meal with her eyes glued to the American soap opera on the screen. She was a large woman whose hair was dyed platinum blonde, except where you could see the mousy brown bits growing out from the roots. She wore heavy makeup, and she had one of those unfortunate bulging figures where the flesh appears to be strapped in all around the body to prevent it from falling out. Mommy, Matilda said, would you mind if I ate my supper in the dining room so I could read my book? Here's the pictures, everybody. The father glanced up sharply. I wouldn't mind, he snapped. Supper is a family gathering, and no one leaves the table till it's over. But we're not at the table, Matilda said. We never are. We're always eating off our knees and watching the telly. What's wrong with watching the telly, may I ask, the father said. His voice had suddenly become soft and dangerous. Matilda didn't trust herself to answer him, so she kept quiet. She could feel the anger boiling up inside her. She knew it was wrong to hate her parents like this, but she was finding it very hard not to do so. All the reading she had done had given her a view of life that they had never seen. If only they would read a little Dickens or Kipling, they would soon discover there was more to life than cheating people and watching television. And at that point, boys and girls, we're going to stop for today. I will continue tomorrow again with part 3 of Matilda. Have a great day, stay safe, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everybody.